Ready? I'm sure you don't want to hear me speaking, so we'll get started. Right, we've got three speakers again, so I'll let them get going. Can you, if you wouldn't mind, they'll talk about what they want to talk about, and then can you save the questions to the end, please, rather than sort of interrupt as we go through. I think it'll make it a lot easier for them and for you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I just want to thank all of the Tree Crops organisation for having us here today as Botanic Gardens representatives. My name is Lawrence Speedy, and I work as a horticulturalist at the Auckland Botanic Gardens. I look after the children's garden and the adjacent educational orchard. Sorry, just bear with me. Yes, Sonia, you'll need to flick it back to the first slide, please. Thank you. One more back. That's great. Thank you, Sonia.
Yep, that's the start. Yep.
My name's Angela Anstice. I'm the Edibles Garden Curator at Auckland Botanic Gardens, as well as the Haracado Gardens Curator. Been there coming up 5 years in September.
Hi, my name's Justine Newnham, and I am an apprentice doing horticulture at the Botanic Gardens, and I have a big interest in mushrooms, but I'm not an expert, sorry.
Cool. So before we launch into the main topic of our discussion, I'm just going to give you a little bit of history about Botanic Gardens. It opened in 1982, and over that 42-year period, one of our main goals has been to connect and engage our visitors with plants and gardens. Recently, and all of you are probably aware, there's been a growing interest and enthusiasm in edibles and tree crops, and as a result, we have tried to hone a significant part of our visitor engagement strategy around that key area.
Wow, it's beautiful.
This photo is from 1985, and this shows how plants were traditionally displayed at the Auckland Botanic Gardens. A lot of formal bedding, which was usually changed twice a year, very labour intensive, and definitely a lot more for photo opportunities than any learning opportunity. And the plant collections showcased extensive groupings of similar plants with much less focus on how the garden or collection as a whole engaged visitors. Nowadays, Auckland Botanic Gardens annually attracts 1 million visitors. Our goal is the same. We want to engage these visitors with plants and gardens, but how we're doing it differs. The above slide showcases our edible garden as a cohesive, attractive display aiming to capture the interest of many visitors. These edible and companion plants are all clearly labelled and can be readily sourced from our local nurseries. Most have been trialled, which enables visitors to make better informed choices. This is visually interesting and is a focus that repeats itself through many of our other gardens. However, in recent years, we ask, what else can we do to further engage our visitors? For example, how can we spark their interest to grow some winter veggies, go home and bring their fruit trees in their own garden?
So here we have a very arbitrary breakdown of what we consider to be the three overarching engagement barriers, very much applicable to Aucklanders or those in urban and suburban areas. The first engagement barrier is perception, and many of our visitors come to the Botanic Gardens to actually switch off, to disengage. There is the rather common derogatory notion of a public garden being a place to have coffee, quick toilet stop, back on the motorway. Our goal is really to look at these visitors and ask ourselves, how can we break that perception barrier? How can we reignite, spark an enthusiasm for edible plants and gardens?
One such strategy is to theme gardens to our visitors' interest. Last year, I did a pizza-themed garden, which inspired so many kids to take this idea home, and then they get to eat the results. The slide on the right is a smoothie bed recipe. This summer, we're going to have a smoothie bed, plus we're doing botanical mocktail as another.
Apologies.
The Potter's Children's Garden also has interactive plant interps as well, which is like the one on the slide, and that's just another fun education opportunity for kids and families to learn about ethnobotanical uses of our native flora.
That's pretty cool.
As previously mentioned, visitors may lack confidence, they may consider themselves bad gardeners or lacking a green thumb, and often, through no fault of their own, perhaps they were, for instance, sold a punnet of summer basil at this time of year. Pamphlets recommending plants for Auckland with easy to follow garden advice are available at our visitors centre. There's a number of them, other than the 3 that we've got there, on all sorts of subjects. And within these brochures are a list of star performers. Star performers are those plants which, through our trials and evaluation process, show consistently good performance in Auckland. For example, in my garden, we have red stems rhubarb, black coral zucchini, and chef's choice rosemary. Such star performer plants are also showcased in high-profile, ready accessible areas of our botanic gardens. And that photo on the right shows with a QR code, which is easy to scan, and when that's scanned, you get easy to follow advice and information about the plant that's on the board.
So after perception, the second engagement barrier is knowledge. And it's not only knowledge, but actually knowing what to do with that knowledge. A lot of people, a lot of visitors don't really know where or how to start. For instance, they may not know when is the right time to prune their fruit tree. What are the best vegetables to organise for the winter garden?
The gardens and plant collections, we host a series of what we call drop-and-learns throughout the year. Drop-and-learns allow visitors to acquire practical, hands-on knowledge about key seasonal gardening tasks and to take those ideas home to get started. Recently, in March, I hosted this drop-and-learn in my edible garden on autumn and winter seasonal change. I focused on bed preparation, direct seed sowing and timings, green crops and their importance, and also encouraged people to think about what their families like to eat that would be available this winter. And also a bit of a heads up with using some of the edibles, encouraging different colour plants and stuff like that so they get a really pretty looking garden as well as be really useful to eat as well.
It's been.
So our drop and learns are also opportunities for us at Botanic Gardens to recruit outside expertise, particularly on those subject matters of earning interest to visitors. And as you can see here, we have well-known tree cropper Ben Shear running a budding and grafting drop and learn at the Botanic Gardens. That was really well attended and well received. We've also had the privilege of having Jeffrey Mansell from Kotari Subtropicals running a banana care drop and learn back in October.
We have a visitor centre at the Botanic Gardens, and it's a way that we can also share knowledge. And as part of my apprenticeship, I had to do a plant display, and I chose mushrooms. The reason is I wanted to highlight the beauty of mushrooms and their ecological significance. And it kind of ties in with this exhibition that's on at the same time by Marie Taylor, who painted native New Zealand mushrooms in the 1960s. Sorry. But I could have just done plants for my plant display as part of the unit is, but I chose mushrooms to add in it, and the plants kind of accentuated the mushrooms. And I'm fascinated by mushrooms because they have depth. The mycelium that under the ground grows and it connects with other trees and plants. It has symbolic relationships with other plants, especially in forest trees. And they have kind of a mystical beauty about them. They sort of pop up for a short time and then they disappear really quickly. And some of them are quite smelly, but especially at the Botanic Gardens we have some. And so I also noticed that some people were not really appreciating mushrooms that much. They didn't see the beauty of it. They sort of just thought that they were this mould thing growing in the corner of their house or their garden and didn't really think too much about them and sort of realised that they are more than that. And so I wanted to expose the mushrooms to people, see how amazing they are. And so we put in a plant display, and then these sort of walkers that we have around with bags with oyster mushrooms, and then around the other side is the wine cat mushrooms, which you can't see in the photo, but they haven't popped up yet. They're in impregnated maize, and then we also had the logs, just to show people how easy it is to grow mushrooms. And you can get one of these bags and you could just put it on your kitchen bench. It's that easy. And so this display did actually prove success because many people took photos of the mushrooms. So there is this interest now, and well, probably already there, but just hopefully it sparked a bit more. And they talked about mushrooms and they wanted to purchase these bags, and many people attended. They had a couple of workshops on mushrooms, so about that this display achieved its learning outcome.
Well done. Yeah, that's cool.
We are also keen to engage our future visitors, and the Potter's Children's Garden and its adjacent education facilities host about 9,000 students a year. And it provides a structured but really fun and engaging learning environment for the kids. There's a lot of interactive play structures within it. Angela recently showed all of you the picture of the manuka and its ethnobotanical uses. Equally importantly though, there are key skills particularly vital to edible gardening that are taught within the Potter's Children's Garden, such as composting, soil health, transplanting, plant propagation. So all of those previous slides about our drop and learns, our visitor centre displays, and how we're connecting with kids, they show that we are actively trying to connect visitors with knowledge and important working knowledge. However, many of our visitors, particularly those in Auckland and suburban areas, are faced with the restrictions of urbanisation. So sections keep shrinking, property tenures are often very short term, and there's a lot of busy working people, particularly those in the corporate world, who are actually short on time. So going forward, we actually need to look at the ideas and knowledge we're providing and really ask ourselves, are they applicable to visitors now and 10 to 20 years in the future? So to sum up, this is more or less what we need to focus on to overcome that urbanisation barrier. There is a need for garden solutions that can be scaled up or down, that are adaptable, that are ecologically resilient, and also cost and time effective.
In contrast to Kew Gardens in London, which has 122 staff, Auckland Botanic Gardens has 17 field staff. This presents a challenge, but equally an opportunity to showcase some practical, simple, time and cost-effective solutions. This slide shows us an example. It's in my edibles garden where we use no-dig principles. You can see the produce, and we are showing people that that principle can save time, effort, and when applied well, it definitely improves soil ecology.
Weed control, that is another big time devourer for a lot of us, and it certainly is for me in my educational orchard. Most of us have kikuyu in the North Island, and my educational orchard has it in its glorious entirety. I think for all of you, this is a very simple weed control strategy that I'm demonstrating here. But to me, the beauty of it for our visitors is that it actually, the smother and cover with paper and mulch, it actually does save time, it reduces the amount of weeding, and perhaps, maybe it allows you to take a moment, chill out, and enjoy the paper.
One big barrier I have found with our visitors is that they are mainly in rental property, and to them it is not worth spending money on a garden and they are not sure how long they will be at the property. I have been trialling these stackable boxes and they work really well. They are made of macrocarpa, and on each corner they have a wedge, so they stack together. The idea is that they can be set up on a piece of land, filled and used to grow. Then if you shift, you bag up your soil, destack your layer of frames, and you move to your new spot. Left-hand side slide is peanuts that I am growing in them. Yes, I checked them the other day and I've definitely got peanuts under there, so that was most exciting. And they work really well for other crops. I am going to make up a poster of the dimensions and the materials, showing our visitors and encouraging them to give it a go.
We also see a future in promoting fruit trees and orchard practices better suited to the small-scale suburban dweller. So all those techniques enabling the production of fruit in limited spaces, things like potted fruit trees, various espalier techniques, formative pruning and summer pruning techniques, intensive tree planting. We are keen to look at options to trial those out and recommend what is proven to our visitors. Further to this, ideas around how a small-scale suburbanite can achieve a successive continuum of harvested fruit over the season. So that idea of not having one monstrous fruit tree devouring an entire section, but having many small trees, well designed, giving you a nice succession of fruit. And it really ties in with the concept of showcasing orchard design to our visitors. The slide on the left here it's an illustrated schematic concept map of the Potter's Children's Garden, showing rather nicely the breakdown of all the various habitats and areas within it. And that photo on the right is an aerial map of the adjacent educational orchard. Just excuse me for one moment, I'm going to, just to give you some context, that sign over there is located about here. Here is our main visitor ring road. Countless visitors transit along here every single day. And I think there's a fantastic opportunity to have a similar interpretive sign located right there that straight right there and then it gives our visitors a greater understanding of the orchard layout, why we've planted what where it is, and it also gives them a concept of the orchard in relation to its overall surroundings. And to me, this is not only relevant to our visitors, but also to local school groups, local community groups, all of those other organisations looking to start their own orchards.
This slide is on our regional Kai Innovators Hui that I've been joining in with, which I really enjoy. We need to not equally acknowledge that we're not experts. We further need to recognise the great wealth of external community knowledge and expertise. Connecting, engaging, reciprocating, and ultimately partnering with these community stakeholders is vital to our Auckland Botanic Gardens relevance now and in the future. This group that's on this slide works within the Community Innovation Group in Auckland Council. Their goal is a low-carbon, resilient, local food system that provides all Aucklanders access to fresh and healthy food. Some things that have started are a pilot enabling growing food at local churches, of which there are many in South Auckland. Unlocking council land to use for food growing, such as urban orchard being created at Puanui Reserve in Wiri. Cutting red tape and cost for community groups to access these spaces. And also, a lot of mapping has been done with our local boards to see where the needs are most needed for this work. At Auckland Botanic Gardens, we are in a really good space to support this initiative as we are part of Auckland Council. We have our orchard and edible growing areas there, and our location is in the heart of South Auckland. And a lot of what we are working on fits in really well with this group.
So in addition to council entities like the Kai Innovators that Angela has mentioned, we are also keen to partner with external groups and organisations that share a common interest with us. And the three organisations here I am involved with in some manner or form or capacity. And what I want to say is that Botanic Gardens being tied to those organisations it strengthens our ties with that wider horticultural and research community. Further to that, and it's more for me as a gardener who really spends a lot of bread and butter time, often pulling weeds, mowing lawns, picking up rubbish. These organisations are my opportunity to take a deeper dive into special areas of horticulture, special plants, areas of sustainability, things that I'm passionate about and ultimately that I believe deserve either trialling, showcasing or promoting at Botanic Gardens. And a good recent research example that I think exemplifies one such relationship is our trichoderma research. We've been privileged to be able to partner with renowned biotechnologist, tree biotechnologist, Dr. Jenny Aitken from Auckland University. And the aim of the trial is to look at various inoculations of trichoderma, other bacteria like Bacillus, Subtilis, Fusarium, Penicillium, seeing what long-term impact these inoculations will have on our Aurocaria and Agathis trees within the Botanic Gardens Arboretum. 6 months ago, well actually it was a year ago, so last autumn we did our first inoculation around the drip line and mulch zone of those trees. We did a follow-up in the spring We subsequently took samples, and those samples are confirming successful inoculation within the mulch and the root zone layer. Early days still. We really don't know yet what impact this is going to have on long-term tree health. But I'm hoping that something promising will come out of this research. I don't ever think you're going to get that magic silver bullet, but there might be something really useful. In conjunction with that research, we've been very privileged at Botanic Gardens to recently acquire, thanks to our National Research Committee, a number of Haracado trees. We are really keen to trial it out in Botanic Gardens, and particularly looking at how it performs as a tree in smaller spaces. Equally, however, I think in the long term there could be enormous scope to actually extend our trichoderma inoculation research into Haracado. So early days yet, but there's definitely opportunities there.
Another big way that we have of connecting with our community is with our volunteers. We have a range of volunteers at Auckland Botanic Gardens. You might recognise one in the second slide on the left-hand side, Mrs. Katrina Muir. She's my volunteer in the edible garden. We are ranging in age from teenagers to 84 years old as one of our older volunteers. We have a diverse range of volunteering opportunities. Since our borders have been unlocked, we've been really busy hosting overseas visitors. They're really keen to come to Auckland Botanic Gardens, mainly to learn about our New Zealand native plants, but when they're there, they spend time with all of us. So that's been really exciting as well. We're always looking for new volunteers. If anyone is interested, know anybody that could be interested, please let us know, because it's a really great way of giving back to us at Auckland Botanic Gardens, plus some really awesome learning opportunities at the same time. So we're kind of getting towards the end of our presentation. So what we think sums up most of what we do or want to do at Auckland Botanic Gardens is planet, growing with green principles, puku, which is food quality, and pocket, which is the cost. And all this goes back to the right plant in the right place, and our logo, Auckland Botanic Gardens, where ideas grow.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah. When you were talking about the inoculations, when you showed the picture on the left-hand side of the avocado tree,
Yes.
the inoculation, what is it? What results are you hoping to produce? What are you hoping to see? Oh, sorry. Curiosity. What is that?
Yeah, thank you. And that's a really good question. And I perhaps didn't really clarify that well enough. A lot of agathis. So agathis is the genus that our native indigenous kauri comes from. And I'm sure a lot of you are aware that in this country we have kauri dieback. And, kauri dieback is a Phytophthora-induced disease, so it's soil-borne. And there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, research about the impact of beneficial soil microorganisms, fungal organisms, in terms of ameliorating. I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination, but outcompeting, ameliorating the effects of Phytophthora-induced disease, and that's really the crux of what we are assessing at the moment.
Thank you. Going back to your roadblock of perception, I wanted to ask how you engage with the issue of waning insect populations in your relationships with the wider community, and also the climate crisis in its relationship to plant resilience, and how much that's a part of your educational program.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And as I mentioned in my earlier slide, we always try to partner with external stakeholders. So we have been privileged to have entomologists that come out to Botanic Gardens. We have beekeepers, for instance, who actually run workshops and drop and learns. One of our volunteers, he's an older guy. He's a former engineer, and he usually does a lot of work on our structures, but he's also a beekeeper, and he's run talks and seminars on that. To answer your question about climate change, our talk has by and large focused on engagement with edible plants, that concept of furthering local community food resilience. And we certainly have not touched upon what the wider Botanic Gardens is doing in relation to climate change. But I'll keep it brief. I'll just touch upon it. I do encourage you to, sorry, where are you from?
In Northland.
Yeah, so definitely encourage you to visit. We actually have all our waterways have been revegetated. So we've got extensive riparian planting. We have done a lot of revegetation along our motorways. We have a sustainable stormwater trail, which, it's touching upon climate change because, obviously if you've got more plants near the waterways, that's obviously locking in carbon, but it also touches upon that really, really important growing urban issue. And I think you'll all agree Cyclone Gabrielle highlighted that about, keeping the idea of maintaining revegetated riparian areas. We've got really good educational interp around that. So, yeah, I hope that sort of answers your question. But yeah, definitely encourage you to.
Yeah, it does somewhat. Just one quick follow-up in terms of edible plants, just to be focus in on what your presentation was about. We're currently facing 5 years of El Nino climate, and we're looking at possibly major droughts and water shortages in the future. So when I was talking about plant resilience, I was actually thinking about edible plants and people's, horticulturalists' ability to provide food and people's ability to provide food in their own backyards as well. Not wanting to be too apocalyptic about it, but it is a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
As a curator, part of our role is a lot of researching. So I've been doing work with Sydney Botanic Gardens and working with them and the edibles garden curator over there, just gaining knowledge about what they've got going on over there, what plants they're using, what could be adapted to here. Last year I won a scholarship from Auckland Botanic Gardens and I travelled to England and Scotland and Singapore. It was fantastic. Just seeing over there in Singapore the more subtropical plants that are going on, bringing back ideas potentially that we could use here. Kew Garden in London was amazing. They've got very similar stuff to us going on, obviously on the other side of the world. Got a lot of knowledge over there about new themed gardens that they're going for, drier climate gardens. They're going for all sorts of different themes, completely different to anything that they've done in the past. So I got some really good ideas from there to bring home. And not so much in Scotland because, that was amazing, but nothing too much is changing there. But definitely London, they're going in the same vein as what we are with research, climate change, everything like that. So, I'm doing some work on that. So when I get my presentation and everything together, it could be another chance to present it here on what we found when we were overseas.
Thank you very much.
Angela, did I hear you right when you said about the community gardens that it was a low carbon model?
Yeah,
What did you mean by that?
hang on, just getting to my right page. That was with our Kai Innovation Group, that's within Auckland Council, and the aim of our group is to have low carbon, resilient local food system that provides all Aucklanders access to fresh and healthy food. That is the goal of that group. And it's just a title that we've got there, but we have to, that's one of the things that we're working towards. And it's starting off as a pilot. So watch this space basically, because it's really, really good.
Sorry, Andrew, I might just speak that also. Just to speak further to that point, I mean, one of the groups I'm involved with is Urban Orchard, which it's very much a local community group within the Manurewa Takanini area. Very similar aim of keeping food resilience local. And I think what's speaking to me about the Kai Innovators and Urban Orchard is it's, when you're talking low carbon, you're talking about how do you take that food distribution element out of our current modern day, in today's modern world, we go to a supermarket and it's convenient for us, but where has that food gone to? So to me, it's about bringing food resilience back and capability back to local communities.
Sorry, I was thinking low carbon in the soil and I'm confused. Yeah.
Could you repeat what she said?
Oh, it was just me saying that I was thinking low carbon in the soil, so I was confused. Yeah.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you very much.
hosting us today.
Thank you indeed, all three. That's certainly been quite interesting and given us a new sight and a new insight in what's going on. Now then,